much, everyone. I hope that everyone that is out of the room will come in and join the conversation, hopefully. Anyway, thank you, all of you, to be here this morning. Come on, we're waiting for you. Thank you. We're going to continue with this morning conversation around the barriers for healthcarepreneurs. Those entrepreneurs that really want to make a difference in healthcare. Mm-hmm. And this morning we were talking about digital innovation because most of the projects that were presented were very much related to digital application and digital health solutions. And digital applications has been proved as really beneficial for patients, for a value-based healthcare, and for the transformation of the healthcare system. We have seen that through the pandemic. And also the effort of innovation has been huge. But it has created real, let's say, strategies, funding, efforts from healthcare organizations. But at the same time, if we want digitalization in healthcare to truly develop its full potential in Europe and Spain, we need to orchestrate and organize transformative initiatives at the national level and new processes and regulatory frameworks to pave the way for innovation in digital health. If we don't do that, if we are not able to provide an agile process to access the market for digital applications, if we are not able to provide funds and to provide reimbursement models, if we fail in providing adequate ways to evaluate these different kind of medical products, we're going to fail, we're going to lose the money, the incredible money that we have thanks to the EU funds. But most importantly, we are going to fail in making this innovation benefit the patient. So we have an amazing panel today. I think that they have been introduced, and they are going to provide us with information and initiatives and projects that are going on at the European and Spanish level as well, on how to advance and how to progress in the way of accelerating through an adequate European and Spanish framework that ensures digital health innovation, reach patient, and boost also health economy and success for the entrepreneurs. So no more introduction. Yves Verhoeven, I think I did it well, Senior Advisor on MedTech Innovation at the EU for Health Solutions. I would like to, that you can provide us some framework of what's going on after DIGA Fast Track. I think that most of you know what happened in Germany as a model for accelerating the introduction of digital health applications. What is being done in Europe? You also are a member of an initiative that is the European Task Force for Harmonized Evaluation of Digital Medical Devices. I would like you to talk about, to provide your view on the access barriers that healthcarepreneurs face and how this DMD task force is working to overcome them. Yves.
Right. Thanks, and thanks for the invitation. It's a real pleasure to be here. I think what I would like to do is to take the entrepreneurs, let's say, at a European level. So if you see Europe as a single market, and you want to actually introduce your innovations into this market, I think a first critical point is of course to understand if you're seeking really to provide your technologies towards the general public, more on a consumer basis, or if you're seeking to bring your technology into the healthcare systems with a specific medical purpose. And so if you're aiming to move to the second element, then quite clearly from the European organizations, from the European Treaty of how the Europe is functioning, the first element is that you can get access to this single market by fulfilling some regulatory requirements. So you have the first regulatory hurdle in Europe to be taken, which is quite a stringent one, but this gives you the access to really the healthcare system. So this is for both the medical technologies, medical devices. You have a regulatory system. Also for the pharmaceutical, you have a regulatory system. And when you get into combined technologies, you have to look at the interplay of those and actually make sure that you're well informed in order to take this. And this gives you then access to the European single market. So if you think now, yes, now we're actually there, it's just the starting point, because what the Treaty of Europe is also indicating is that really the organization of healthcare is a subsidiarity. So this is a responsibility of the countries, of the regions, of the health authorities, and so you have to actually see how you bring your technology within those more or less 100 healthcare systems that you have and thousands of hospitals that you have. So you really have to understand the pathway and the innovation access pathway to go into these. And so healthcare is very specific in its organization, because you have three key players. You have the player of who is paying for it, who is actually providing it, and who is actually the beneficiary. And this is the triangle of it. And so it's important to understand, okay, how are those financing mechanisms actually working, of who is paying who, and how are you ultimately getting financed and paid. And the healthcare system itself is of course, considering this European element of a safety and a performance of the technology as a stepping stone, but really likes to see, if you bring your technology into their systems, what's actually the added value? What does it bring for their system or for their hospital? And multiple instruments exist for that. You have the health technology assessment instrument. We'll be discussing a little bit more on that. You can go in a value-driven innovation procurement side, so the hospitals buying and have it also are going to do an assessment of value, or you can go even more advanced, that new contractual agreements are being set that you're paid for the outcomes you really bring with your technology. So all of this is actually when you want to end up into the final system. And so what healthcare systems are now realizing is that it's very challenging to go from this single market into really the uptake into the full system. And so that's why now new interim pathways are actually developed for your innovation. So innovation access pathways are being developed with also specific financing for those. And as indicated, so Germany has been putting these for the digital technologies. It's specifically for the apps, very low risk apps that they actually are seeking to support you in going in this initial access pathway, to then do an assessment, to potentially have the opportunity to go into the full system. And the evaluation that needs to be done there is questioned, okay, should this be harmonized? Is this better that we can have a European view on this? And this is actually what the European task force is doing, to really see how can we go into a harmonized evaluation of these digital medical devices, including also the AI components is this. And this is actually the project which is supported by EIT Health in order to go into this system. And these new innovative pathways, France is developing one of those, and I suppose other countries are looking into this as well, to bring this and your technology into the healthcare system.
Thank you, Yves, and very much related to this point of evaluation. This needs to be harmonized at the European level. It's something that we all know, but also in Spain even, we need to, we are in the process, and Rosa Maria can speak a little bit more about that the need of adapting the current access procedures and evaluation criteria to the emerging digital health applications. But so Rosa, can you share with us what is doing Aquas on behalf of the whole network of health technology assessment agencies in these particular aspects, and how do you think what you are doing at AWES can help success for entrepreneurs? Rosa.
Yeah, thank you, Angeles. And following what Yves has said, so it's about developing clear guidelines. So it's not for the people that do the assessment, because here in AWES, what we are doing, we have been commissioned by the Ministry of Health of Spain in developing this methodological framework to assess digital health technologies. And with this, we are describing the domains and dimensions that have to be taken into consideration to do the health technology assessment of these devices, because in Spain it's mandatory to do the health technology assessment before to be considered this technology to be part of the common portfolio of our national health system. So if you are thinking about of your technology, of your innovation to become a technology that has to be part of this national health system, you have to take into account that for addressing this value, to demonstrate this value, you have to take into consideration these domains and dimensions. And then, not only to describe these domains and dimensions, we provide with these clear guidelines. We try to provide with these clear guidelines, besides describing this, the evidence generation that you have to generate, to demonstrate in each of these domains and dimensions to verify if your technology, if your innovation has reached its goals. And the goal of our national health system is to provide an efficient and equitable and sustainable and a system of quality. So these clear guidelines for not only for technicians, as I said, for you as developers has to be taken into consideration, because you have to, as Yves said, to start thinking not only on the certification of the regulatory pathway, but also on the health technology assessment pathway.
Thank you, Rosa. And then once the technology is evaluated, it has to be adopted. And hospitals and healthcare organizations are the one who has to adopt, who has to integrate the digital health solutions. And most of these organizations are publicly funded in Spain. And this means a lot of issues or pains or barriers that not only healthcarepreneurs but also healthcare organizations face in this process of adoption. So can you, Patricia, tell us about your experience on the barriers for, as a head of innovation in a hospital like St. Pau, introducing these solutions, and also tell us about what is being done in a project we're under construction, coordinated by the AT Health, and you're part of it. So, okay. Patricia.
First of all, thank you for the opportunity of sharing the ideas. As some of you may know, AT Health has been the promoter and is the coordinator of the F3T project, which stands for Framework for the Fast Track of Digital Health Solutions. This group, this project brings together relevant stakeholders of the healthcare ecosystem, and the objective of this group is to analyze which are the points that we can accelerate on this roadmap in order to adopt innovation as fast as possible. During the discussions, we have been looking for the specific pains, and I will highlight the ones that, as a healthcare provider, as a hospital, hurt us the most. So in the roadmap, the first phase we found was the MVP. So while going through the analysis of what this MVP was about, it's like, does the entrepreneur actually know which are the clinical pains that we as a healthcare providers or as a system have? So the answer was, we are not sure about that. So the first proposal regarding this first pain was, why don't we really identify which are the clinical pains? Why don't we prioritize them and communicate to the entrepreneurs so that we create a win-win ecosystem for innovation? You know which are my pains, and we all can focus our efforts. really interesting during this conversation was that actually there has been a European project which objective was to create a platform to connect, to match clinical need with potential solutions that could give response to these needs. That was the first point, the first pain we went through, and the second and the third point is related to what Yves and Rosa has explained, was when we saw the two phases in which we need to generate evidence in the hospitals is the clinical test that we do in order to get the CE mark. It takes up 2 years long to get this clinical evidence, evidence generated, and then we have the evaluation that the HTA agencies do. So the first question that came to our mind is, why don't we use the 2 years long that we spend doing the clinical test in order to get all the information that the HTA agency will be needing afterwards? So in this way, we will be optimizing the total amount of time that you use to generate evidence. That was the first proposal. And after, when we were deeping down on 2 years, what are we doing during those 2 years? So the first thing that every clinical test has to do is to go through the ethics committee. Surprise, these committees are sovereign. What that means is that every single ethics committee of every single hospital has different criteria. So what if there's an harmonization on the criteria, no? And besides, what if the different HTA agencies had the same criteria? In this way, could it be possible to have an efficient federal system of evaluation so that the validation of one of the agents of this network, the validation of one of them, it's accepted by the rest. In this way, we would be able to have a portfolio, accepted by all the agents of the network. So these were the first packet of proposals that we did in the group. We are not done with so we will go on sharing our the analysis and the proposals. And just main conclusions is the roadmap, the current roadmap for the adoption of solutions is really supposed to really high cost for all the healthcare providers, entrepreneurs, and for population, because they cannot get advantage of the innovation that already exists. And finally, as a stakeholder of the healthcare ecosystem, I believe that we have the responsibility to work for the sustainability of the system. So adopting innovation will probably help us to try to catch up with the growing demand of healthcare demand of an increasingly aging and demanding population. Thank you.
Thank you, Patricia. We are still in the process of the conversation, and the last one is the very, very interesting one, which is who is going to pay?
Who is paying?
Who is paying? Yeah. So more to come. It will continue. Yep. But last but not least, Pilar from AstraZeneca. She's representing the industry here. So I would like to know if pharmaceutical companies are looking at healthcarepreneurs and digital health as a new area to provide value to the sector. Pilar, what challenges are you experiencing from the market access perspective, and how are you addressing them?
Okay, so thank you so much, first of all, for taking AstraZeneca in this afternoon to this very, very interesting panel. And what we are, the challenges, the main challenges that AstraZeneca is facing right now are much more connected to the pharma business, and this is as a consequence of the COVID pandemic. But having this in mind, we have also to take into account which is the European scenario in which we are working in. And so from that point of view, we have some lessons learned from the COVID-19. And one of them was that our national health systems needed to be sustainable, needed to be much more resilient. And so digitalization has proven to make this possible during the pandemic. So why do we have to stop? We have to keep on moving this on and trying to make every digital solution closer to patients and making the innovation much more accessible to patients. And also, There are another challenges that are much more difficult to achieve to overcome by the small and medium-sized companies, which are regulatory issues. It's very complex. The pharma regulation is very complex. It's being renewed now, and also there is the European health data space. Many things that are coming and that small companies have to handle. And once they have the idea, they have to get into the regulatory pathway, and which is not always adapted to their solutions. And afterwards, they have to go to the system, and nobody's financing these solutions. So we need to make our best to get these solutions closer to patients, because we know it helps for diagnosis, we know it helps for patients' adherence to treatment, and so we need to take them much more in. Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Pilar. Later, I think that maybe there are questions in the audience, but there one stakeholder is not here, who is the decision maker, you know, that also has something to say here. And I would like you to first to try to see your opinion or your view on what we can do to better support entrepreneurs to help them navigate faster in this pathway, what we can do in a feasible way from the different perspective, what should be done first, what we can prioritize, and also what is the role of the decision makers in all this has to be prioritized from your perspective. Any, Yves, Patricia, whoever. Yeah.
Can perhaps start, and I think it follows a little bit what was mentioned, is to start actually not with thinking what technology can do and what the further advancement in the technology you can actually bring, but ask first the question, what's actually the interest, what are the needs, what are the unmet needs that the healthcare system is having, that the patients are having. And to really go into the dialogue with the institution, with the healthcare providers, with the need for integration into the care. I think that's a key element, and to ensure that you very early in the process do then also a very early assessment of this value, looking at the different criteria, and see ultimately is this something that the health system would be interested in to pay for. Because ultimately you don't want to end up with the full development and then noticing that even if you have positive assessments, that the system in itself is not very interested to pay for this. And this is certainly a point of attention, given that for information and the value of the information at this moment within the healthcare system, it's still quite limited, the amount of investments which are being done in that field. So it's certainly worthwhile to make sure that this question is being answered as well.
Yeah. So from the institution part, the administration part, I think that, as I mentioned before, and following what Yves has introduced before, is the clear pathways. You have to know which door to knock. Because for us, it's difficult to explain the national health system, the regional health system, and even in between different hospitals of the same region, they don't know how to reach this door to introduce this innovation. So for us, we have to do these clear pathways to introduce this innovation and clear guidelines to introduce this. And we are talking about different levels, but we are not different actors. We are the same stakeholders. So we have to take into account the level of the hospitals or the level of the primary care also, because primary care is also a huge door to knock with when introducing innovation. Then the regional perspective, the national perspective, but we are in the European Union, and there is this HTA regulation, and we are all of us committed to do this regulation to be successful. So I think that we have to define for our perspective clear pathways and to define the door that you have to knock and to be successful.
know if you want to add something. Yes, Philip.
I would like to end to highlighting the needs, the clinical needs, and here I think it's really, really important the paper of the disease or the person who has to take the decision, because the fact of collecting which are the clinical needs, I believe it has to be done top-down. You have to ask bottom-up which are the needs, but doing the consolidation of what does the system really need, I need that it's something that has to be done top-down.
Now, it's interesting how the title of the panel was the regulatory gap, but it has more to do with other things in the access rather than regulatory or apart from.
And I would like to add that it will be also the need of harmonization, the need of prioritization, and also the need of education. I mean, and then to get the knowledge, no, by general public, by the patients, by the health professionals, in order to get a well use of these all applications or digital solutions.
Yeah. There are some minutes, like 5 minutes, to some question. Yes.
Hello. The implementation of MDR and IVDR is causing a lot of European startups to prioritize the US market, which is going to cause a big technology gap in Europe. My question is mostly to Eve. Is the EU aware of the consequences that MDR and IVDR is going to have on healthcare innovation in Europe? And what are they doing about it?
Yeah, well, I think it's an excellent question, and it's very close to my heart as well, this element. So first of all, I think there has been a realization that not only for startups, but in generally, that patients were at high risk of not receiving the treatments and the technologies even in the coming months. So people have been realizing this, so there has been timelines which has been extended to this element. But still then the question is, okay, is there sufficient capacity available and a sufficient efficiency in this system, and how is this actually also responsive to a startup and to innovators? And so they actually put in place an EU for Health project in order to support the build-out, and I'm part of that project, in which we then specifically focusing for startups, for innovators, and to see, okay, how can it be identified, what are the needs, what are the specific needs now and in the near future, and which is the supportive, let's say, training in order to ensure that quality dossiers are being developed, so that when you knock on the door from the system, the door is open. Because at this moment, the system might be still okay to handle it, but the door stays closed, and that pushes actually innovation out. And so we're very well aware of this and working on this and working on some multiple initiatives to support this. Yeah.
And I would like also to add that I think that in the first State of the Health report that was published last November, it also spoke about the MDR and the thing that it's still under development, so it's in a status O from 4 states. So I think that the intention is there, also with the open strategy that the Commission has been published recently, and the intention is there, but the risk and the threat is that the patients will not have access to innovative treatments, innovative solutions in Europe, and entrepreneurs will move to China or to United States. So yeah, very good question, yeah.
It's very important to raise your voice, because the latest at the MedTech Forum, from the notified body side, from the system side, they indicated there is not an issue on capacity for it. If you're feeling different, then don't hesitate to raise the voice.
Any other question? If there is no question, we have still like 1.5 minutes. And I would like to ask you, to what extent do you think that public-private collaboration is or can ensure a fast adoption of digital health solution? What is the role of collaboration? What is the role of networks?
I think that, that was also one of the lessons learned after the pandemic, the importance of the public and private collaboration. And in AstraZeneca, for instance, we have a partnership to support the health system sustainability and resilience with the London School of Economics, and I think that we have to all work to it, no?
Yeah, I believe it is essential because it's because the system is not. We cannot do it by ourselves. The cost for us of for innovating in-house, it's not possible for us. So, it's the only way for us as a healthcare provider.
Yeah, so we are good at research, we are good at the clinical part, but we are not good in this transfer of this knowledge into the system. So it's needed these partnerships between the public and the private part. And I will also want to highlight that it's okay to, and we are also very committed to the this innovation culture, and we have to improve this innovation culture. But I think that the other side of the coin is the culture of the assessment. So we have to improve this because we are very focused on this first part, on this life cycle approach of the technology, but we have to think about also in the assessment. It's very important. In some cases, it's mandatory, and we forgot this. And if we start to think about this at the very beginning, and I think that we will be more successful.
Well, if there is no more question, I think that yes.
Just to indicate that when I look at the European scenery, Spain and specific regions in Spain are really ahead of this curve. I mean, you might not feel it, but I would say, I mean, the entrepreneurs in Spain, take your chance. I mean, there is a good opportunity here.
So I think that's a very good message to finish. So thank you, Patricia. Thank you, Yves. Thank you, Rosa, Pilar.
Thank you.
And please stay there because there is another very interesting panel right now. Thank you.
Thank you.